Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight of Rhode Island. I'm Kathy, your host for today. We also have Josie Way and Ken Demers also co-hosting with us today. And our guest today is Kerri Letellier. Did I pronounce it? Oh, okay. Forgive me on the mispronunciation. She's the owner of Aura Inspired Illuminations.
Yes, that's correct.
So we actually met through something online for a fair in the spring, I believe it was, spring of 2022. So we worked together at a fair though, and I asked her to come on the show. So she's been doing this for a little while though. Her setup's a little bit different than most of us that do the aura photography. Would you like to get into that though?
Sure. So I utilize a system called the biopulsar reflexograph. So it's more of the client actually putting their hand on a specific hand plate that I have that has these gold prongs that stick up, and it reads the organs and the glands of the person's energy and all that, just like with reflexology, and it goes into my system that I have in the laptop, and with the program I can see the actual aura moving, and it's very different than actual photography, and a lot of the energy shows me what's going on with that individual, what their talents and gifts are, where they have imbalances energetically, so it can give me a whole array of information, if they're intuitive, so it really gets involved because it does show their 49 organs and glands, and it tells me what's going on with the glands.
Oh, wow.
So.
Yeah,
Does it show medical stuff?
So it will show, for example, it might show someone's pancreas, and it will show me where their normal range should be, and then there'll be like a red line, and it will show what energy from their pancreas is going on. So I can see if the energy is congested, if it's overactive or is underactive, is the person dehydrated. So it can show me many different things, and at that point I would question the client, did you just eat like a high carb, high sugar diet? Is there something going on with your pancreas? I see it's overactive. Or do you have any history of diabetes, or have you been checked for diabetes? And I don't diagnose, I don't treat, but I show where the energetic balances are, and then I would either refer them back to like their doctor or their physician, to look into it further. But it shows many different aspects of it, and sometimes 70% of the people that I read, they're always dehydrated, and that can affect their aura, which that's when I'll see a lot of gray. And when your aura is dehydrated, it makes it porous, and your aura shrinks, which can make you susceptible to like other like negative things, or just really make you feel like sick, or have a headache. So sometimes there are people that are so severely dehydrated that I have a little bit of this ultrasound gel that I will put on their hands just so I can talk to the organs and be like, all right, what's going on in here? But people need to realize that drinking a lot of water, 6 to 8 glasses of 8 ounces of water is very important. It's for your body, mentally, physically, everything. I remember there was one woman who I felt was intuitively just very sad, very depressed, and I could see it with the aura reading. And I was telling her the importance of drinking water. I'm like, do you drink water? And she said no. So I just was giving her some information, and telling her that she probably should get checked out by her doctor. And then it wasn't until a month later when I saw her at another fair where she came up to me and she said, you never believe this. And I said, what? And she said, I just got discharged from the hospital because I ended up having a stroke. And I remember, she remembered some of the things I was telling her about what to do to prevent having strokes and heart attacks and stuff like that, and how important dehydration is, your mental balance and all that. So she was like smiling, and she did great. She came out with not having any residual, but she remembered just being home and having these symptoms, and she just knew something that I said to her, and then she just knew to call 911, and luckily for that, she had less than 3 hours to hurry up and get to the hospital. So it's stuff like that that I like to bring to people's attention. And sometimes people will say, well, I know I'm going to have you read me, so I'm going to go and drink a bottle of water. Well, if you drink a bottle of water and you haven't been the last few days, I'm going to know. So I love it because it's such a it's just so to the T what is going on with that person's organ right then and there, what's going on with that person. And a lot of times people will say, will my aura be the same every time you read me? But I always tell them, are you always in the same mood? Do you always eat the same things? Are you always happy, or did someone cut you off when you were driving? And they say no, and I said, well, you just answered that question, because everyone's always different. Sometimes if people have certain scars on their body, that might show up the same time over and over again.
Scars?
Scars. Yep. So if you've had like surgery, you say you had knee surgery, you always had this like scar. So I will see it on this photo. It's like a Michelangelo photo, and then it's that person's aura colors. And I show them, it's like a video. It's like 3 seconds of their colors moving in and out. But then I print the photo of that. So it's not really of their face. Could I put their face on it? I mean, sure. But a lot of clients are like, I don't want a picture of myself, but they want the printout of their aura. And it's pretty interesting because I can test a lot of products. So I can have someone's hand on the thing, on the hand plate, and I can say, oh, let's see if this liver likes this particular herb or whatnot. And I just put that actual herb, over their hand, and I will watch to see, does the liver react? Does it like it?
That's
so
fast.
It's quite fascinating. It tells me your present mood. So if you're sad, depressed, or anything, I'll pick that up right away. I can tell if someone's an empath.
Now, are you picking this up psychically or from the machine?
Both. Yep. So it's almost like the machine is like a backup of what I see. Sometimes I will even sense what I know I'm going to pick up on that individual, and then I'll see it on there too. So it's a combination of both.
Okay. I got a friend of mine, she was supposed to come here tonight, but she had to do little people soccer instead. But she's got an ongoing stomach issue.
Okay.
And her daughter, 5 years, turned 6 today, doesn't like to eat water.
So she doesn't drink water at all?
I don't know. I'm
Okay.
wondering, I'm listening
The
to
mother
you.
that has the mother has the stomach issues though, right?
Yeah.
I would be inclined to be wondering, I would dig a little deeper and say, all right, does that mother have a lot of worries? Always worrying about stuff?
Yeah.
Because a lot of what I do with the aura reading too is, how did that person develop that physical manifestation? Did it just happen? And I tell people that usually 9 times out of 10, if you hold on to a certain negative emotion long enough, eventually the brain's gonna go, you know what? I gotta store this somewhere. So a lot of people who stress out and worry about a lot of finances, and nowadays a lot of people do, a lot of times the brain goes, all right, if you're gonna keep holding on to this negative emotion, I gotta store it somewhere. A lot of times it gets stored in the lower back. Worrying issues, stomach issues. A lot of times I'm seeing an increase in the number of anxiety cases. A lot of times when anxiety is up there, the intestines stop working and getting into distress. Because if that person is having a hard time mentally digesting and processing certain people or events in their life, then eventually their digestive organs are going to follow suit and also have a hard
We've
time
had
digesting.
a few guests come on the show over the years that were in very, very traumatic, like Beirut, and her stomachs were literally tied in knots. And this could have been caused by all the stresses.
And stresses, big time. Yep. And I also find too with, when I did more one-on-ones with like the veteran population, that a lot of times, sometimes I help certain individuals would hold on to anger, and I would always see that a lot of times they would have a lot of liver issues, or fear. And fear, I always feel like it resides within like the urinary system and whatnot. What is fear? It's false evidence appearing real. So a lot of times it's like, why worry? Why have fear? Is it helping you? No. And if anything, it's just hurting you more than anything.
Yeah.
So
I like the adage, why worry? Half the things that you worry about don't happen.
Right.
And then of them, you have 2 choices. You do something and it makes a difference, or you don't do anything and it makes no difference. But either way, you have to look at it yourself.
it's so true.
Okay, I got 2 questions for you.
Sure.
What did you call this, and how do people find you?
Okay. They can find me on under Facebook or Inspired Illuminations. And I came across,
Say that slow.
I know it's a long name, Aura Inspired Illuminations. That's a
Okay.
long name.
Do we have a phone number that goes with that?
Yes, it's area code 401-573-8137.
Again, slower.
401-573-8137.
Okay.
My intuitive mind goes fast, so sometimes if you've ever had a reading with me, you will know I can only catch up.
Well, I find that people, when they're giving a number on an answering machine, as they start off slow, by the time they're at the end, I have to listen to it about 6 times to understand what they said.
Correct.
And I want people to hear you, and if they want, I want them to be able to find you.
Yeah.
So do you just have the Facebook page or is there a website as well?
For now, website, I'll be
Okay.
eventually working on that, but for now it's just the Facebook.
Okay.
Yep. I pretty much do a lot of like different events or fairs that I will usually post on Facebook where people can find me.
Okay.
Where are the
things like
fairs?
that. Different types of events, different holistic fairs, especially out in like Connecticut. I know Rhode Island wasn't having as much.
I haven't seen them much lately.
Right, so that's why I ended up doing my own early in the year, and that's how I met
She and I met,
Kathy. So I feel like doing more of that is definitely needed. So a lot in like Connecticut and stuff like that. So I do a lot of the events. I did
Okay.
one recently in New Jersey, so sometimes I will venture out. Yeah, so.
So I think
That's
the
a
one
trip.
that we worked together
What
was
do you
in-
offer? The readings?
I do like the 15-minute readings, and I'll do like give them the 4x6 glossy photo. I personalize it for them, and I do the interpretation as well. So.
Yeah, now, as well as the aura, you do other things.
Yes.
I heard about dragonflies.
Yes. So this one's actually my sacred baby. It's called the Dragonfly. It's Dragonfly mediumship where you have these headphones on and you are literally having that direct phone connection to the other side with your loved ones, whether it's your pets that have passed away and your heavenly spirit guides who always watch and see everything you do. This one's really phenomenal. I've been doing that one for about 4 years or so, and I love it because I have sessions with clients who are interested in having a reading done where I get them to also get their own messages, and sometimes I will get messages for them as well. And I've been journaling all this stuff for many years too, so I'll go back and go, oh yeah, I remember that they said this or
Now-
that. It's phenomenal.
My personal interests run to ancient wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, aside from current mediums, current guides, do you ever tap into like ancient stuff?
Ancient, like give me an example.
Time of Christ.
Christ. They will give me messages as far as, to go within God every day. They give a lot of profound different messages. I will talk to different people, different loved ones. So sometimes it can come as a female voice. Sometimes it could be just a male voice, or it can be like almost like a party where I get everyone talking at once and I'm just trying to write down what it is. And a lot of times it's clear as day, complete sentences, and sometimes it could be a little bit fragmented where I gotta put it together. But your spirit guides, everyone has them. They guide you, but they're not gonna tell you how to live your life because you have this beautiful thing called free will.
What about the
Choice.
archangels? I mean, this one
And-
here in
and-
particular, she happens to be prone to them.
And she
They-
might probably hear angelic tones, or I will hear certain voices. I'm like, wow, that's really angelic. So she would probably experience that. They tend to mimic a lot of your personality. So if you're someone who speaks another language, don't be surprised if you get messages in that language. I get that a lot as
That's
well.
happened with me a few times because I'm bilingual.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you would probably get that more than.
Yeah.
I mean, they gave me a couple of French words. Well, I only know a little bit of French, but I understood it.
So
So.
if their spirit guides have a history of French, do they give it to you in French? And you have, even though you don't know what you're saying, you just repeat the words?
They would give it to that particular client. So if that client speaks Spanish, I only learned French in school. If they get those messages, but they speak Spanish, then they're gonna know, they're gonna relate.
Through the headphones, though, right?
through
You
their
said?
own, yep. So they are tapped into their own headphones, and I'm tapped into my own.
And is it white noise?
It's like a white noise, like a white cafe noise, or if you're in a coffee shop and you see your friend coming, you're like hi, and you're hearing them talking to you, and then when they get closer to you, that's when like you hear it and it's a little bit louder and louder. So it's like that. Sometimes it's just clear as day. You hear hello, how are you? And what's so fascinating about that is, it is true that we are never alone, and I love it because
true.
they watch everything that you do. So they will say some profound things. So I said, all right, I'm going to ask my team questions that I'm sure a lot of people will want to know. How is it that you see us? Are you standing behind us? Are you in the corner? Are you up above, floating? How is it that you guys see us? And they said that we look as collectively as a group through your eyes. And I thought that was pretty profound. And many times I would watch a sunset And then say the next day or two, I'm on the dragonfly playing, they're like, I felt your stare through that sunset. And so they feel things, they see things. And they can be really, really comical, but they tell it like it is, which I appreciate, like that tough love kind of friend. But they can be really comical as well.
We had one of the girls that used to be on our show for many years, and then she died, and she came back through, I don't know who.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think it was Josie that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, she came back through, and in the course of the conversation, what she was saying to us, she was talking about how vivid
The colors, yeah.
the colors that she was seeing that she would normally see. It was so much more vivid, so much more intense, so much brighter, and this. I thought that was kind of interesting. And listening to you talk about the sunset.
A lot of
I heard
people,
that.
a lot of people say that though, from that side.
Yeah, it's like if you take pictures, like we were talking earlier about taking a picture with the little cameras. The colors that come through that camera is picking up something that we're not seeing with our eyes.
Correct.
It's really intense.
Yeah, definitely heard of that.
So how did you get into this? You started with the aura colors, the auras first?
It's funny because when I was in nursing school, I was obsessed one day, and I had a small little spiritual group. We would just hang out, and just a bunch of females, and once a month just talk about stuff. And all of a sudden in my head, I was obsessed. Like I needed to know more about my aura. So I asked someone in the group, does anyone know anyone who does aura readings? And someone had mentioned an individual by the name of Robin who used to be in Massachusetts and used to do this. So all right. So I went to go see her, had a reading. She did the biopulsar, the same thing that I utilized. And I'm thinking, oh, this is nice. Never thought I would ever do it. And then years later, I came across the photo and I started getting really excited. And I'm like, oh, I want to have my aura done again. But then it was more like, maybe I need to be doing this. And I always tell people, if you get super excited about something, it's almost like you have that 5 minutes to hurry up and act on it. And then I remember I had a conversation with someone saying, I need to look into this and see if I should do it. And then the rest is pretty much history. So then when I started doing the whole aura reading for quite a few years, I started getting into crystal light therapy because I was a Reiki practitioner for many years, and I just wanted to add on more things in my spiritual toolbox. So
What is crystal light therapy?
So I use this like crystal light pen, and it does different colors for like your different chakras and whatnot.
Right.
And what I love about it is it goes through a crystal tip, and when you do light therapy on the chakras, your chakras love it because light it's a lot quicker than say like sound therapy and whatnot. It just goes into your body. Your nervous system, like your brain and your spinal cord, it just reacts and it just loves it. So basically it's like I clean out the chakras, I take anything that I see that needs to come out. Basically I'm rebalancing the chakras because each chakra has its own group of organs and glands that it's responsible for. So that's why I pretty much work on, and it doesn't just work on the physical, it works on the emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual component of each chakra. And then I show the person before where they might be imbalanced. I do the therapy, and then I show them afterwards where they're balanced, and I show them with the pendulum just so they can see it move, because a lot of clients are very visual, like, oh, I want to see it, but then they really feel it. So I add that in with Brazil stones with their chakra, and I also use like sacred geometry type of sprays and aura sprays, and I just like fluff them up and out you go, And
Okay,
it's great.
Here's the question. What are you going to do next? Have you been thinking about that? What's next?
So I was guided that there is something for me now, but I think from now within the next 2 years, more, I think ESP stuff might probably come more onto the scene. So I'd be curious to see what that does. So not sure quite exactly, but I feel like it's probably more of the healing line. So. Because I was definitely born to do that. I was just born to help people either way. But I always feel like, too, as a healer, that you have to go through your own stuff and your own lessons here before you can go and heal other people.
Have you done Akashic Record stuff to see what kind of a history you have in this field?
I haven't done that personally, no. But if I wanted to ask my spirit guides about stuff in the past, like, where was I or whatnot, I could probably go down that road. I mean, it's interesting, but I'm always about, what about being in the present
Be
moment?
here
for the
now.
Yeah, right. So they did tell me recently, though, I did have like a flash going on when I was just like sitting down on my computer one day doing something, and I was like, what is that? And the dog kind of reacted too, and then I looked at my fiance, and he looked at me like, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, did you just take a picture? Like, what was this like flash going on? And you know, there's other things going on that I can't really explain. So when I asked my guides about it, they're like, oh, it's a star visit. So now,
It's a what?
A star visit. So to
Okay.
make a long story
What's
short,
that?
God, that's like a whole nother topic. Basically, my original family origin was from Osiris. So it was
Alien
like,
energy.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like I was planted here to help raise human consciousness, and
Which,
be
whereabouts
more
is Osiris? Where's that one?
it's somewhere out there. I'm still working on more information with respect to that, so I'm
Yeah.
sure definitely doing more healing work.
So you're star seed then?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Interesting though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
So for some reason,
am
they came
too.
in to visit.
Yeah. So.
All right, so we only have a few minutes left the show. Can you just tell us again how to get a hold of you?
Sure. Anyone interested can follow me on Facebook on Aura Inspired Illuminations, or they can just reach me at 401-573-8137.
Okay. So it's interesting how you just get like a certain pull to do certain things though, and how it just kind of comes back around. Like we see the photo like what 5-6 years later. It's like, oh, you know, it's like, where did this come from? It's like, oh, I'm excited about this again. So it's just interesting how that came about though. So it probably took you a while to get all the machines and the software set up though for that
Yeah.
though. Huh?
Do you get to use it in
And
the veterans
how
at all?
long did it take you to learn how to
So-
interpret that?
That's a great question.
Because I've heard it's hard.
So, yeah, it was a self-study on my part, and it took me 2 years, and I
That's what
did get like graded,
Because
and I got
we had
certified
someone
and all that.
that had a little different system, not the thing, but she had it 7 years, and she said it took most of those 7 years
Just
to,
can't
to
figure it out,
learn.
yeah.
I mean, it's nice because with my nursing background, it's like I got that medical, so now I'm being that bridge that I'm supposed to be between the Eastern and Western world, especially when
Yeah.
I see in the real world, it's not always about medication, it's about education, it's about root cause analysis, you know, why did you get to have that problem to begin with, what can you do to prevent it? So that's
Yeah.
where I'm big on. It's not always
Yeah.
about pushing the pills, so,
Yeah, to prevent it.
yeah,
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Do you work with the veterans a lot with this work though, or just some of the time?
So I work remotely, so full-time as a triage nurse. So at the beginning, when at the Providence VA, they did start their healing center, and I was the very first one doing the Reiki and whatnot, and you get these veterans coming in like, I don't know what this Reiki is, but I'm gonna let you work on me, and I'm like, oh boy, you know, and
The
but
found
then-
edges deal, yeah.
but what's so cool is like 15 minutes later, after you tell them what you're doing, and I just do a quick 15-minute session, they end up walking out straighter, and they're like, I don't know what you just did, but can I sign up for another session? And then the rest is history. But
Yeah.
at the time I was working part-time, so they needed me to work full-time, so I got pulled, unfortunately, because that was like my baby, and I'm like, well, you know, I did it for as long as I could, but
Yeah.
it was great. I loved it, so
Yeah, maybe you probably do that though again sometime soon.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do.
Yeah. You
So-
saw that same time I did though. Huh? Yeah. Interesting how that works. So you do the aura photography, well, the aura information and the mediumship through the headphones.
Yes, which is cool because what if I have a client who has a constant problem with their liver, they don't drink, it's not a fatty liver, you know, what's going on with that? Well, is it anger? Is it something else that's going on? Or could I ask my guides further, hey, you know, like I knew someone that was suffering with narcolepsy, and my spirit guides told me a particular herb, and then all of a sudden I looked it up myself, and it was exactly for that narcolepsy. So it's pretty profound.
interesting.
I could spend hours.
So
just
how
on
did you get the idea? I know it's spirit inspired, but with the headphones for the mediumship part.
So when I was getting certified for the crystal light therapy,
Okay.
about a month before this, because I went outside of like Canada to like British Columbia, I kept getting dragonflies following me, bothering me, just ridiculous. And I went, what is this? And I was told that there was like a little class, and that the inventor was going to be there and talking about this. So I ended up having lunch with him.
In
He
British
spoke to
Columbia?
me. Huh?
Brit-
Of the actual.
Oh, okay.
Up in Columbia, British Columbia.
British Columbia,
Yeah,
okay.
that's where I was. So when I flew out there, I had lunch with him, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm noticing all this, dragonflies. And he goes, yeah, that happens if they know that you're going to be doing a dragonfly reading. So I did it, and I'm like, what is this? I had this intellectual conversation with something that's like, this is unbelievable. And I knew I just needed to do that. And then everything was just like history. It's just been unbelievable. I said, I gotta take this and bring
Oh,
this
so the
and show
headphones
other
is part of the
people.
dragonfly type
So
of
yes,
reading?
yep.
Okay.
So it was like this 2-second recording. It just repeats itself. But that's what they utilize to help raise your vibration
Okay.
while they're lowering theirs. And then you just get the messages and you just like journal them. And then once they know you get it, all of a sudden the words will change and they'll tell you something else. Or if you want, you can go to the next setting. There's like 100 settings, and some are more easier.
Oh, it's kind of like an old style stereo?
But it's on an iPod, like a little
Okay.
old-fashioned like iPod
Okay.
or MP3 actually.
Okay.
So it's just on that. But what's cool is I like to do an experiment where I have a little gadget where I can have 5 people plugged in. We're all listening to the same thing, and I'm like, all right, for 5 minutes, write down what you hear. And then after the 5 minutes goes down, all of a sudden you're hearing apples, you're hearing your grandmother, you're hearing your dog bark. But we're all listening to the same white noise, but yet I didn't hear your message. You got it for
Okay.
you. So how do you explain that? So it's like you're just tapping into your higher self and your
Okay,
guides.
so
and
the white noise is the distraction, get the message.
it's
Okay.
it's what they use as a conduit.
Okay.
Down on my farm in Connecticut, at about just before dark, every day it would happen. There'd be a big flight of giant dragonflies come in. Just 15, 20, 30 of them, all came in at the same time. They would come up and just buzz around the field. and-
Messenger on wings. And when a client, I tell my clients too, just to warn you, if you're coming for a reading, don't be surprised if you now get dragonflies, and then they'll tell me their stories when, I went to go drive through your driveway or whatever, and I just noticed all these dragonflies. So that's why I tell people you're gonna notice dragonflies or notice all the spiritual stuff that happens, and they're like mind blown just from that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
so
pretty cool.
spiritually, dragonflies represent transformation.
That's-
So I
yep.
find that interesting though, like with the
Say
headphones.
that again?
Dragonflies represent transformation spiritually. Yeah. So I find that interesting though with the headphones. It's like, they get the messages, and a lot of times it does get transformed the person up to what they need.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can
So
get
how
what
do
they
we
need.
put earphones on all the little dragonflies that are flying around?
Well, that's what it's called. This type of messages to
Gotta
receive
sit and
messages.
listen to them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, through the white noise on the headphones or through that little MP3 thing that
Yeah.
you were saying.
It probably
So-
makes a little buzzing sound.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
Some of them does, which is really interesting. But
Yeah.
it's fascinating because they'll just talk about anything from medical stuff to political stuff to your health to your loved ones. You have an animal that passed away, you're hearing them too. It's just like, it is the coolest thing ever. It really is. Or they'll see that you just painted a room and you're like, hey, I like what you did with the room you painted. And you're like, what? They see everything.
Yeah.
They see everything.
Yeah, they do.
It's
They
fun.
really do.
It's
Yeah.
really cool. So there is no death. It's just transitioning. It's like changing seasons, going to one coat to another.
Okay, here's no doubt transitioning. What do you think about abortion?
I feel like 2 words that come to mind: personal choice, because I don't know.
No.
Oh.
I mean, how do you explain it? I
oh,
mean,
the,
if
for
there's-
the
if there's
spirit
no-
of the baby.
If there's no death, and like one of my grandsons had to try a couple of times before he could be born into my family.
Okay.
And I was in the spiritualist church one time, and some woman was getting a message that it took her grandson 6 tries to be born into her family.
Yeah, so what I find though is like with miscarriages
We're,
too. there's
we're
still
not
a
on
spirit.
air.
So
Which
yes,
is,
but
I think it wouldn't have been
okay.
appropriate.
So what I find though with like abortions and miscarriages, the spirit is still there. So they have the choices like we do to come back. So it's like it's just one of those things. So that's what I find. So have you ever come across
It'd
that?
be a
Yeah, with
good
the spirit of
subject.
that child ever come back?
I mean, that happened to my sister, where she miscarried at 6. Something went wrong medically at 6 months, and then she ended up eventually had another son down the road who's very artistic, very smart, and I thought, wow, I think maybe that spirit maybe wasn't ready. Something had something beyond my control or my comprehension somehow intervention. Maybe it just wasn't time.
Yeah.
You know.
So no free will though. You can have that choice though too though, and that's
Yeah.
why that happens sometimes.